The king said, I see 7 fat cows emerging from a dried up river. 7 emaciated cows are devouring them. And I see 7 green ears of grain with blossomed seeds, and others that are dry and ready to be harvested. The dry stalks wrapped around the green ones and engulfed them. O counsel, answer me about my dream, if dreams you can interpret. This king, his name was Ar-Rayyan ibn al-Walid. And eventually he came to believe in Prophet Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, and he died during the lifetime of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. It was said that the king, first he saw the dream of the cows, then it woke him up and he was disturbed, and then he went back to sleep, and then he saw the other dream. They said, muddled dreams. We are not knowledgeable of the interpretation of the dreams. These are confused, mixed up dreams. They are nothing. They're just whims of the self or whispers of the devil. These dreams, these types of dreams, they don't have any explanation. What is properly explained are the stable dreams. Then that one who was saved from among those 2 said, and he remembered after a long time, I will inform you of its interpretation. From the one who knows how, send me to him so that I can ask him. Send me to the prison. After all of that long time, he remembered Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam. So they sent him to Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam. He said, Yusuf, oh you who is so truthful, answer us about 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 emaciated cows. That means they're so skinny and there's no fat on them. And 7 green ears and others that are dry. Ear, E-A-R, like an ear of corn. So that's, if you didn't know, that's another meaning for the word ear. Answer us about that so that I can return to the people, so that they can know about you. It was said that Yusuf said, tell the king that these are 7 years of fertility, then 7 years of drought that shall devastate you unless you pull a tactic, unless you do a maneuver. So he went and he told the king. So the king sent him back, asking, what should we do? So he instructed them. He said, you sow for 7 years with diligence. That means plant and farm for 7 years with diligence. What you reap, save it in its stalks, except for a little from which you shall eat. It's like he's saying, start now saving up mass quantities of food. Then after that, there shall come 7 harsh years that will consume what you have prepared for them. It means then those 7 harsh years will come, those 7 years of drought. That's when you start distributing and using that mass stockpile of food. And those 7 years will be so harsh that you will consume what you have saved, except for a little bit that you shall store. There's some that even then, don't touch it, leave it. After that, there will come a year in which the rain will come and the people will be saved. And then again, they can start to squeeze the juice from the grapes and squeeze the oil from the olives and from the sesame seeds. And again, they will be able to enjoy beverages and oils and greases and balms and things like that. So Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, he explained that the fat cows and the green ears were 7 flourishing years of prosperity. and that the 7 emaciated cows and the 7 dry ears were 7 years of drought. And as for that last year, after the 14, because there's 7 years of prosperity, then 7 years of drought, that's 14 years. What about that year after that? He didn't get that from the dream. There's nothing in the dream about it. Rather, he got that from the revelation. Alayhi salatu wassalam. The king said, "Bring him to me." He realized that he was dealing with a man of complete intellect and sound opinion. And he wanted to promote Yusuf right away. But Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, he did not rush to leave the prison. So when the herald of the king came to him, he said, "Go back to your master and ask him, what is the situation of the women who cut their hands? Surely my lord is knowledgeable of their scheme." He wanted the king, when the king first lays eyes on him, to lay eyes on him as an innocent man, not to look at him with suspicion. Even if the king were to promote him, he didn't want the king to look at him with suspicion and promote him. And he did not want the envious ones to broadcast his case as an infamous folly and take it as a means to discredit him. So he told the messenger to tell the king to investigate those women. And out of his great etiquette, Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, he did not mention Zaliha specifically. And he didn't mention what she did to have him imprisoned and punished. Rather, he mentioned the women who cut their hands generally. So the messenger went back to the king with Yusuf's message. The king summoned the women who cut their hands and the wife of Al-Aziz. He said, "What was the matter with you when you attempted to seduce Yusuf despite himself, you women? What was the matter with you women when you attempted to seduce Yusuf despite himself?" They said, "God forbid. We know not of him any villainy. We don't know anything bad about him." The wife of the Aziz said, "Now the truth has been exposed. I attempted to seduce him despite himself, and surely he is certainly among the truthful." And in this is also evidence that Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam is clear of what some people think of him. Some people who misunderstand the Quran, I mean. So that's just another proof on top of many proofs taken from this surah alone, as well as others, proving that Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam did not desire what some people claim he desired. The king said, "Bring him to me. I will use him for myself. I will personally put this man in position for my advantage." So now the king knows that he's innocent. Then, when he spoke to him, it was said that the king knew 70 languages, and Yusuf responded to him in all of them. Then Yusuf spoke to him in Hebrew, and the king did not know it. He said, "What tongue is this?" Yusuf said, "The tongue of my fathers." So the king was even more impressed with him. He encountered a man unlike anything he anticipated. He said to Yusuf, "Surely today you are, on my authority, distinguished and entrusted. Innaka al-yawma ladayna makinun amin. Today you are given rank and status, and you shall be entrusted with everything." Yusuf said, "Put me in charge of the vaults of the land. Put me in charge of the treasury. Surely I am a strict guardian and knowledgeable." So what Yusuf did, alayhi salatu wasalam, was something that a person in his position should do. And you might find yourself in a position like this, which is that you are a person who has acquired the religious knowledge, and you are able to help the people with what you have of religious knowledge. So In this case, what do? Take that position, and even you can um, you can expose your qualifications and say, I am qualified to do A, B, and C, and then take that position and benefit the people. He suggested that the king put him in charge of the vaults of Egypt. His goal in doing so was to be put into position to be able to implement the Islamic laws revealed by Allah, to establish the truth and justice, to put himself in position to do what the prophets were sent for, and because he knew that no one else would be able to take his place in that, to be able to take care of such a big responsibility of the money, the treasury of Egypt. He knew that no one other than himself would be able to handle this responsibility, is qualified for that. Therefore, he sought that for the sake of Allah, not for the love of leadership or worldly gain. It was narrated that the king crowned Yusuf and gave Yusuf his ring and his cloak, and that he had a golden throne lined with gems and rubies placed for Yusuf. Yusuf said, as for the throne, by it I shall strengthen your kingdom. As for the ring, by it I shall manage your affairs. And as for the crown, it is not my attire, nor the attire of my fathers. Then he sat upon the throne, and the kings yielded to him. And the king of Egypt, he authorized Yusuf with control of all of his affairs. And he removed Qitfir from his position, and he died after that shortly. And like that, Allah empowered Yusuf in the land, settling therein wherever he wanted. After he was imprisoned and detained, and his movement was restricted and limited, and he was a prisoner, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala gave him power in the land and enabled him to settle anywhere he wanted. After Allah empowered Yusuf in the land, and the king forwarded the command of Egypt to him, and he took charge of the vaults, Yusuf established justice for Egypt, and the people loved him. He called the people of Egypt to Islam with wisdom and gentleness, and the king and many people embraced Islam because of him. The drought was intense, and it covered a great portion of the land. The people of Palestine felt the hunger and the calamity that covered much of the lands. And so the land of the Canaanites was inflicted with the likes of what hit Egypt. And they knew that there was food in Egypt. It was known that there were supplies in Egypt. Yusuf's reputation for justice, mercy, and compassion preceded him and spread throughout the horizons. So Yaqub sent his sons to Egypt for provisions. He said to them, my sons, it has reached me that there is a pious ruler in Egypt. Go to him and give him a salam from me. Tell him of your lineage so that he may know you. They went with camels and donkeys to carry the loads, and they went with the money to pay for the provisions. They entered in on him, and he knew them. They still had their clothing and appearance and their situation and their language that they had when he was a boy. And they knew him not. Because of his new attire and because of the long time since they last saw him, which was 40 years by now, they did not recognize him. And also because they thought that he had perished. It was narrated that when he saw them, they spoke to him in Hebrew. So he said to them, tell me, who are you and what is your affair? They said, we are a shepherd folk from the land of Asham. The famine hit us and we came for provisions. He said, how many of you are there? Perhaps you came as spies to see the weaknesses of my lands. They said, Na'udhu billah, we seek refuge with Allah. We are sons of a prophet saddened by the loss of a son who was the most beloved of us to him. We were 12, but that one perished, and our father detains with him that son's brother, that perished son's brother from his mother, seeking comfort in him. And when he prepared them with their provisions, Yusuf said, "Bring him to me if you are truthful. Come to me with a brother of yours from your father. Bring him to me. Do you not see that I give full measure, and I am the best of hosts?" He said that because he gave them a comfortable stay. He gave each man a camel's load, which was the limit he set for every customer. It is reported in the tafsir of At-Tabari that to encourage them to bring their brother, he said, "Bring to me a brother from your father so that you can take another camel's load. I only give one camel's load per man. Don't you see how generous I am to you? Bring him so that you can take more. And if you do not come to me with him, then there is nothing to be measured for you from me, and do not even come near me." They said, "We shall get him away from his father, and surely we shall certainly do it." They said that they will deceive their father and trick him until they get the son away from him, and that they will certainly, most indubitably do it without fail. Yusuf said, "Leave one of you as collateral." So they left Simeon with him. Either it's Simeon or Simon, Shamrun. He said to his servant boys, "Put their goods in their luggage," meaning give them their money back. Put their goods in their luggage, return their money to them in their luggage, so that they will know it when they return back to their family, so that they will come back. Yusuf was afraid that they would not have the goods that they would need to purchase food another time. So he commanded his servant boys to secretly stash the goods that they came with back into their luggage, so that they would come back again. When they returned to their father, they said, "O father, the sale of food has been barred from us. So send with us our brothers so that we can buy more food, and surely we shall certainly be his protectors." He said, "Should I entrust you with him as I entrusted you with his brother from before? Allah is better as a protector, and he is the most merciful of the merciful." He's saying to them, "You're telling me you'll protect him. You told me that before, and look what it got me. Allah is better as a protector. I will rely on Allah." When they opened their luggage, they found their merchandise was returned to them. They said, "Oh, father, what more do we want? This is our merchandise returned to us. We will provide for our family, protect our brother, and add the load of a camel. That is an easy load." He said, "I will not send him with you until you give me a most solemn promise to Allah that by God you will surely bring him back to me. Unless you get surrounded by an enemy, that's your only excuse. The only way you can come back here without my son is that you got surrounded by an enemy." So when they gave him their covenant, he said, "Allah is a witness over what we say." And he said, "O my sons, do not all enter from one gate. Come in from different ports. I fear for you to get hit by the evil eye, because you are a big group of handsome men. All of you are very handsome men, and you are a big number. You're very obvious and you stick out. So I fear for you to go all of you together through one door. So go into Egypt through different ports, so that inshallah you all won't get hit by the evil eye. Or if there's some enemies of yours that you encounter, that they won't catch you and wipe you all out." Yaqub said to his sons, "And I cannot protect you from anything that Allah will to happen to you. Despite whatever caution that I advise you with, whatever Allah will to happen, there's nothing I can do to stop it. The ruling is not but for Allah. The ruling is only for Allah. Upon him I have relied, and upon him let the reliant ones rely. Then, when they entered from where their father commanded them, meaning when they entered into Egypt through various ports, he did not free them from Allah in any way. He didn't do anything to save them from whatever Allah willed to happen to them, as we will see. It was narrated that when they entered in on Yusuf and said, "This is our brother. We have come to you with him," he said to them, "You have done well." And then he was very hospitable to them and made them guests. He gave each pair of them, so 2 by 2, he gave each pair of them a spread with food on it. So Binyamin sat alone and cried. He said, "Had my brother Yusuf been alive, he would have seated me with him." Yusuf said to them, "Your brother is left alone." So he sat with him at his food spread and made him eat. He said to him, "Would you like for me to be your brother as a replacement for your late brother?" So Binyamin responded, "Who would find a brother like you? However, you were not born from Yaqub and Rahil, Jacob and Rachel." Then Yusuf cried, and he hugged Binyamin, and he said, "It is I. I am your brother Yusuf. Fret not about what they used to do to us before. Allah has been generous to us and united us in goodness. Do not tell them of what I have told you." Then, when he prepared their provisions, he put the pitcher in his brother's luggage. This pitcher, it was said that the king's drinks were served with it. And it was said that the king drank directly from it, and that it was golden or silver and decorated with jewels. And then it was turned into a measuring container. So he put the pitcher in his brother's luggage, and then they packed, and they went on. They started their travel. And Yusuf let them get some headway. Once they made it a little bit, he sent someone after them. A caller, he called out, "O caravan, halt! Surely you are thieves." And it was narrated that Yusuf's entrusted herald, who stopped them, he scolded them, saying, "Were we not hospitable to you, and took you in as guests, and gave you full measure, and treated you unlike we treated anyone else, and took you into our homes, and then you steal?" They said, the brothers, they said, while approaching them, "What are you missing?" They said, "We are missing the king's pitcher, and for whoever brings it, there is a camel's load, and I am its guarantor. I will pay whoever brings that pitcher. I guarantee him a prize." The caller said, "I shall guarantee the reward of a camel's load to whoever turns in the pitcher." They said, "By God, you know that we have not come for corruption in the land, and we are not thieves." They said, "Tallahi," with a ta. They swore by Allah using the ta. So instead of saying Wallahi, they said Tallahi. So that's swearing by Allah with amazement. So they said to the brothers, "Then what is the payment if you are liars? What's the payment for that pitcher if you are liars? Or what should be the penalty of the one who took the pitcher if you are liars?" They said, "The payment for the pitcher is whoever you find the pitcher in his luggage. Whoever you find the pitcher in his luggage, he is the payment for the pitcher itself. That's the payment." Like that, we penalize the unjust in our religious laws. The fatwa that we give for our religious laws is that the thief is made to be a slave of his victim. So Yusuf started with their luggage before his brother's luggage. Either he was doing it himself or someone was doing it by his command, looking through their luggage. And on purpose, he started with theirs and ended with his brother's, so that to make it more effective. Then he pulled it from his brother's luggage. Like that, Allah gave Yusuf a clever ploy. Allah inspired Yusuf to pull a clever maneuver. He would not have been able to take his brother according to the policies of the king. According to the laws that the king had made, Yusuf wouldn't have been able to take his brother. So Allah inspired him to ask the brothers what should be done if one of you is a thief, and then they will say he's taken by whoever's his victim. They said if Binyamin stole, then Yusuf certainly stole back in the day when he was little. And there's different things that the scholars mention about why they said that. And Yusuf, he hid that, he detained that within himself. That insult that they just threw at him, he kept it to himself. He didn't show it outwardly to them. He said, you people have a worse status, a worse position, and Allah knows better about what you describe. They said, oh Aziz, surely he has a father, a very old man, so take one of us in his place. Surely we see that you are among the generous. So when Yusuf wanted to keep his brother with him and the brothers couldn't find a way to get him back and to get out of this problem, they asked him to free Binyamin in exchange for one of themselves. So Yusuf refused. He said, I seek refuge with Allah from taking anyone other than whom our goods were found with him. If we did that, then we would be certainly unjust. So when they despaired from him, they had no hope that Yusuf would comply with them. They secluded themselves for a private conversation. They wanted to decide what they were going to do. The biggest of them said, meaning the oldest of them, or it could mean the most knowledgeable of them, he said to the rest of them, don't you know that your father took from you your promise to Allah, and before that you were negligent about Yusuf? So I will not leave this land until my father permits me, or Allah so judged for me.